Hey everybody, welcome to Hoop and the Harm. I would be the Harm today, and I believe, Nolan, you are the Hoop as the insider from, the East Coast as you travel through the wonderwits of the NBA. It's been a crazy week, confusing week. I'm very confused.
It's been
very, very confused.
I call it silly. I can't think of a better word. It's just been a silly, silly week of NBA basketball.
I would like to get us started on the Western Conference because we did a whole thing on the 10 seed and that's already changed and it's going to continue to do that. I've grouped this into tiers. So the three teams that we're talking about in the 10 seed now, I see as Sacramento, Dallas, and the Suns. I was thinking it's the Suns and Dallas. One of them will get in, but Sacramento is playing themselves backwards, and Dallas seems to be getting guys back and playing better basketball. The Suns seem to be showing some life, beating the Milwaukee Bucks last night in a very, very dramatic fashion. So I see those three teams in kind of their own tier, and one of those teams is out. Is that who do you see out, and what are you seeing with the Western Conference 10 spot?
Yeah. Honestly,
9 and 10.
I would be. I know. Sacramento sits 9 right now. They are so inconsistent though, and have been for a while. And I feel like both the Suns and the Mavericks are moving, especially with Davis coming back to the Mavs. The Suns just being in a desperate mode, like we just got to figure this thing out. I would put my money right now on Sacramento being the team that's on the outside looking in, because Dallas and Phoenix just start to play good enough on a more consistent basis to get in to those 9 and 10 spots.
And we only have about 11 games left. 10, 11
I'm
games.
sure I'll be eating a lot of crow a week or two from now, but right now that's what I'm thinking.
So just to kind of give everybody who's listening, who's not following this along right now. So the last 10 games, Sacramento is 3-7. The last 10 games, Dallas is 3-7, although I would argue that they've had an upswing from that. They were much worse because of the injuries. The Suns are 6-4. So I would say that you had a couple injuries with Sacramento, which hurt, and the trade didn't help them. So the Suns are playing the most inspired of those three. And again, these teams all have 35 wins. For them to get to the 8 or 7 would be extremely dramatic for a team to go on a huge run at the end of the year and one of those teams to go on a huge fall. I don't see that happening.
No.
So I would agree with you. I currently have Sacramento out, which would mean that Phoenix and Dallas would play each other to get to play the next game. They're in a 1-game playoff, and it's going to depend on who finishes with the better record, Phoenix or Dallas, who gets the home field.
And man, that would just be an absolute toss-up, even regardless of who's got home court advantage. That would be just, if I had to bet my life on that one, I think I might just say take me now, because
I think the interesting thing is who gets home court. Because I don't think if you're Dallas, do you want it?
It's true. Now
they're not happy. No one in Dallas is like, we are super.
They're not, but I would like to think they'd be able to put their. Well, I'll say this. To start, they would put their differences aside, for lack of a better way of putting it. But man, they would have a short leash. If they came out and they were firing blanks and Phoenix got off to an early lead, those Dallas fans would turn sour quick.
I don't disagree with you, not one bit, not no how. This is so we're in for a treat if you like following the 9 and 10 seeds.
Yeah.
Because it's not decided. They're still playing for it. One team is going to be out. I think by next week we'll have a clearer picture, I would hope. But right now, I thought we'd be clearer today than last week, and we're not. We actually have another team added to the mix.
No,
we just talked Dallas to the Suns.
Happened.
We went back and forth. Dallas has won a couple now. They're feeling pretty good. The Suns have won a couple in a row. And I think Sacramento is going back into the earth, as you would say. So for our standpoint, just based on last week, I would agree with you. I think Sacramento's out. I think the Suns are in. So as a Suns fan, I'm pretty happy. The Suns' home field is pretty excited. And that leads me to lead the witness. Is Beal being out the best benefit the Suns have?
Yeah, you hate to say that, but it's kind of hard not to say that because it's just a problem. And I think there's real truth to that. When there's a player who's not been a great fit, who even, they're talented, what they bring, they're capable of, if they're right. But there is definitely something to be said when a superstar or even a damaged superstar gets removed from the equation, and suddenly it's like, we know who we are right now. We don't have to placate to this guy. We don't have to try to fit him in. We don't even have to think about that. And at this time of year, it's a nice problem to not have to worry about, like, how are we making Beal happy, or how are we making this work with him in the in the crunch time minutes or whatever.
I'll tell you this to add to that, because we were talking about trading, the offseason, those kind of moves. Man, I tell you, Durant, when he gets traded this offseason, you're not wrong about the Suns are going to get some good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he hit a huge 3 the other night. He's playing clutch. It's really hard to not like him, to be frustrated with him as a Suns fan, because it hasn't turned out the way you want it.
Mm-hmm.
But he's just so good.
He is.
And there are moments where you're just like, God, like, he just does stuff that you're just like, he had a hand in his face, hit a 3 to take the lead last night.
And you're like, you can't trade this guy. He's one of the best in the world.
It is really hard. This is not, I mean, because I earlier I was like, trade everybody. Like, this is such a barn fire, but you can't trade Beal. We all know that. It's just him and Booker play well together. I don't know how else to say it. They just do. And they win a lot together. The stats show that.
And maybe they go on a little run and they fare a little better in the playoffs than we thought, and maybe they can convince. Maybe they start with trying to convince Beal to go back to Washington and just ride off into the sunset, and then they try to retool around Durant and Booker. But
the only salesmanship that I have for the Suns, and I know I'm veering the car here to trades in the offseason, the only salesmanship that I would have for Beal is that you want a chance to make another max deal. It ain't going to happen with playing for the Suns.
Mm.
So if you play for another team and really just be the guy and you're lights out, that team may put their fortune in on you, may bet the farm for you. And maybe there's a way the Suns can pay for some of his deal. I don't know what it looks like. But again, I don't foresee him getting another max deal playing his contract out with the Suns.
Probably not.
However, there's a team that's not in the playoffs where he could play great. And then a team's like, you know what? I'll take a chance on him, especially with, payrolls and everything like that. It's a known commodity.
And to veer it back to the playoffs, it really behooves Durant to show out in the playoffs and to get the Suns further than people believe they can get right now. Because if he takes them even to, I think, the second round or even a really competitive first round series, I think that'll drive his case. A lot of teams will turn up for him and will want to, will offer a lot. There'll be a competition, and that's what Durant wants, because he's going to have a say in where he goes. So he wants as many championship contending teams to offer him a spot and to try to vie for his services. So
we don't have much time left in the NBA, which is good, because we're going to see all this kind of come to fruition as they play 3 or 4 games a week. So we got roughly 3 weeks left of the season. We have the Suns in Dallas moving on. Sacramento is out of the Western Conference playoffs as of this recording and what we see in the future. That brings me to the next block in the Western Conference, and I'm just going to move the dial up. And this is 8, 7, and 6. This is the next block in the Western Conference. It starts at 6 with Golden State. Number 7 is the Clippers currently. And then number 8 is Minnesota, which I've been biased with. And just to kind of, before you say who you...
A couple episodes ago, we're singing their praises, and here they are.
And just to kind of give you an idea of how all 3 of these teams are playing in the last 10 games, Golden State's 8-2. Clippers are 8-2. Minnesota's 7-3. None of these teams are playing poorly.
Right.
All of them are playing well. They are all within, I believe, a half a game of each other at this point. A game or a half a game, right? One game of each other.
Very cool.
What do you see here? This has been nutty. What are you seeing?
So I'm looking at Minnesota's recent schedule, and they got an impressive win against the Nuggets, but they've got a lot of wins against bad teams. If you go back, it looks, I could count, but I don't want to waste the time with that. If it's about 10 games ago, they played the Suns and beat them pretty badly, or soundly. And that was when the Suns were, when we were getting the funeral ready for them. But I mean, they've got since then they've got a win against the Sixers, the Hornets, the Heat, the Spurs, the Magic. Their Magic are probably a playoff team in the East, but they're not as good as we thought they'd be. The Jazz. Then they got a loss against the Pelicans and a win against the Pelicans. So you split against one of the worst teams in the league, and then they had a chance, I think, to really show out in 2 games against the Pacers, and they ended up losing them both. One was close, and one they kind of, the last game they just did not play well. So to me, it's kind of like I'm looking at my Knicks here, because I'm saying the Timberwolves, they beat up on a lot of bad teams, some close games against those bad teams there. And then, you had a chance to make a statement against a good playoff team like the Pacers, and you didn't do it. The next game against the Suns will be very telling, I think.
So to your point about bad teams that they play, so they end this month with the Suns, and then they play the Pistons. Both teams are, you would say, I would say that they have the Suns number, and I would say they should have the Pistons number. Then they play Denver, who they absolutely have their number.
Yeah.
Then they finish the year Brooklyn, Philadelphia, Milwaukee, Memphis, Brooklyn, Utah.
It is there for the taking for the Wolves.
They don't play a lot of again, I think the Denver matchup suits them.
I'll tell you right now, if I was a Wolves fan, I would be looking at it like, you guys better win the most of these games. You better finish strong. The path is right there. The path is right there to jump up, to get to that. I mean, objectively speaking, forget about, Golden State, Clippers. I think that the Warriors are, a team I would be deathly afraid of to play in any playoff scenario, or end of the year for that matter. But regardless of that, Minnesota, just as far as what you can control, you can absolutely get yourself out of the play-in just by beating the teams you're supposed to beat.
I'm completely biased to Minnesota, and it's difficult to see them as 8, but I also know it's still early and there's a lot of games to be played. Let's go up to the Clippers, and I'm just going to give you the rest of their season, so that way you don't have to look it up. So what you have for the Clippers this month, you have a lot of games in a short amount of time. They play your Knicks in New York. Then they play Brooklyn, Cleveland, Orlando. That's their road trip to end this month. So Cleveland, on and off. Orlando, on and off. The Knicks, on and off. They could struggle, or they could beat all of those teams.
Absolutely. That's a very unpredictable schedule.
Then they finish it in the month of, going into the month of April here. New Orleans, Dallas, San Antonio, Houston, Sacramento, Golden State. So you could possibly see Golden State playing the Clippers for a 6-7. That's a possibility in the last game of the year. Now, it could also be like both teams are settled and they know where they are, But this race has been so close, it's hard for me to see one team just like catapult above the others.
I don't like that Clippers schedule, man. I really don't. You got a lot of good teams. You got a lot of teams that are fighting for position right now, that are trying to cement their place either in the playoffs or in the play-in. And then you got a couple random, like, trap games in there, because you got a couple games stuck in between there against teams that aren't going to sniff the playoffs, that you'd be real tempted to just be like, well, at least we got that one, and then waltz in there and take an L to an inferior team. It's seen it happen so many times. So I don't like that Clippers schedule.
Well, let's go to Golden State then. As we're recording this, they're currently losing by 20 to the Heat. This is Butler's return back to Miami.
I was just gonna say the
team that traded the teams that traded those players. Again, I go back to that Dallas team, right? There's something to be said when you're the discarded players and you're not considered the real deal. Mm-hmm. And Butler is. There's something to be said about that. So they're currently losing. They could obviously come back. I wouldn't say they can come back. Steph has an injury.
He's not playing, right?
He's out. I don't know if he's playing currently, but I think he's out for a couple more games. With that injury that he had, which we both said if they lose Curry, they're dead.
And the playoffs. I'll be honest, I forgot about that for a minute there.
Yes, Curry's not playing this evening.
I still, if Curry's coming back, I would still probably bet on the Warriors too. Even if they lose the next few games.
Let me give you their schedule. So they have Miami on the road, then they're New Orleans and San Antonio on the road. Both of those teams, they should be wins, but those are without Curry.
Mm-hmm.
Then they're at Memphis, at the Lakers, at home against Denver, at home against Houston, at Phoenix, San Antonio, Portland, and then the Clippers.
They got a tough schedule.
Of the three teams, with Curry out, they're playing the easy teams with Curry out. Like they should have beat Miami. They should beat some of these teams that they're struggling with. I would say the Clippers and Golden State have the harder of the three schedules.
100%
mile.
100% agree.
So again, my bias, if I was like, well, I really like Minnesota suddenly, I like Minnesota a lot.
Yeah.
I think them as a 6th seed is legitimately difficult. So I would be shocked after looking at these schedules with you, I would be shocked to see Minnesota not the 6.
Yeah.
And then I could see the Clippers Golden State game being like, we're playing each other in 2 days. Nobody's playing.
I wouldn't be shocked, but I would say that's probably how it should happen. I mean,
so I would have Minnesota, then I'd have Golden State 7 and the Clippers 8. That would be mine for 6, 7, and 8. The Clippers play Golden State to see who moves on to the 7 seed, and I would be surprised if it's not Golden State.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then you have the 8 seed, which would be the matchup of Dallas Suns versus, again, which we would roll dice. We'll see in 3 weeks what we're looking at versus those teams. But that's what I see. Minnesota, because of their schedule, they can really catapult themselves to not be in the play-in.
They got to do it. I mean, seize the moment.
I mean, there's enough games too, and they're all within a game of each other. And with Curry out, this is the time that Minnesota should leapfrog. In all reality,
now
the schedules are really weird too. Like it's really odd to me that like Minnesota's currently played Monday; they won't play till Friday.
That said, is there a world where you could see Memphis sliding down, and then 2 of these teams that we're talking about get into the playoffs without having to get to win in the play-in?
This is well, let's look at their schedule before I say yay or nay, because Memphis plays this evening, and they again are having injuries with Durant out again, as always. They've lost 3 in a row. They've lost to Sacramento, Portland, and the Clippers. They play Utah tonight. Then they play Oklahoma City, the Lakers, Boston to close out this month. So they're 1-3 right away. I can't see them beating the Lakers, Boston, or then they play Golden State. Then they go at Miami, at Detroit, Charlotte, Minnesota, Denver, Dallas. Dear God in heaven, do I see them dropping?
Yeah. And
Holy cow, I didn't think about this. You're making an excellent point about Memphis coming down to earth and possibly being a play-in game.
And it's a shame, because I really like Memphis's roster. I love Jaren Jackson Jr. Ja Morant, seems more like the Ja Morant than ever before. If you could stay healthy, of course. They got a lot of scrappy players that they picked up from the G League and that they really discovered last year when they had the injuries. But last year not making the playoffs and really like falling out because of injury, it like set them back. And so now they got that like inexperience factor too. Like, whereas, if they're competing with a team like Golden State that's got a core that's been there time after time after time, you just wonder if, it's just going to be easier for the Grizzlies to wilt in the moment.
So this would be, when I'm looking at this because of Curry's injury, I would see Minnesota moving all the way to 5.
It's possible.
8. Minnesota would be 5. I would then put the Clippers as a 6. I would say Golden State is still your 7 and Memphis 7/8.
Mm.
If I didn't think about Memphis falling that far, but they really have looked bad. Their last 10, they're 5-5, and I think the Lakers, the last 10 are 3-7.
Yeah,
they're also the same record as Memphis.
Yeah,
same exact record.
I mean, they're the same record. We could probably say it about the Lakers too, but I'd bet money on the Lakers figuring it out for the last stretch of the season than Memphis. But man, how fun would Minnesota versus LA be in the first round if they were 4-5?
I don't think any fan's going to be mad about these playoffs in the Western Conference. There's a lot of really intriguing matchups. And right now we're watching this thing kind of move all the time, move back and forth. The way that I see this, I'm like, this is going to be really interesting, which gives me to kind of the next block. You put Memphis falling. I could see that. The Lakers and Memphis are currently sitting 43-28. They're about 2 to 3 games above that next tier, which is a big deal with 10 games to go. The Lakers have finished. This is where I'm confused. The Lakers bring James back. He doesn't look bad, but he doesn't look good. Like, he's still James. Mm-hmm. Luka's still Luka, and they get blown out. I mean, blown out by the Bulls. The Bulls almost scored 150. And then they play Orlando and also get blown out. These aren't even close games. So if you were to tell me that James is back for the Bulls in Orlando, I'm like, great, the ship's back. They're winning 2 games. They're going to have 45 wins. Nope, they have 43 wins. They're behind the next tier, which is Denver and Houston, and they look to be a solid 4 seed. And then I ask myself, are they trying to be the 4 seed?
Right.
Do they not want to be the 3? Are they looking at the 4 and hopefully playing Memphis? Is that what they're hoping? Because I think trying to position yourself in the Western Conference is extremely hard because there's so much movement.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Who knows what goes on in LeBron's head, but maybe he doesn't want to see Steph Curry in the first round. Maybe he doesn't want to see the rivals from LA in the first round. I don't know, but I wouldn't want Minnesota. That's for sure.
I think the last 5 games of the season, you'll see that kind of positioning because you'll have a better idea in 5 games where things are at.
Too early for that.
But I just am shocked. Again, I was floored by how good the Bulls played. And it wasn't like a flash. The Bulls are one of the hottest teams in the NBA right now.
But they've had this knack over the last couple of years that they have not been good because they were supposed to be good, right? They had this core that was Vucevic and Levine and DeRozan, who now 2/3 of are Sacramento's big guns. But just to reestablish the underachieving, but they have good players and they have guys. They're they're underachievers, but they have what it takes to compete with teams on any given night. Vucevic is a great pro. Kobe White is somebody who any team would love to add. Any contender would love to have a Kobe White coming off their bench to just, go on a heater when their starters are not giving them what they need and just tear it up. And that's what happens in a lot of these games. They've got, Herter now, who, is one of those guys who's just a shooter, and, 3-point, as the 3-point buckets go, so do these games a lot of times. So,
and the Bulls, when I watched that Laker game, this is the thing that was surprising to me. Third quarter, that game was a 2-point, 3-point game. And you look at the final score, and it looks like the Lakers didn't show up.
It looked like
Lakers were in the game all the way to the third quarter, and then the Bulls got so on fire. I was like, what is going on? Who is this team? Then I started checking out their past couple games, and I was like, this is a hot team. So the Lakers ran into a buzzsaw with them. Then they got buzzed out by Orlando. We'll see how they perform here in the upcoming week. Do you see the Lakers as a solidified 3 or 4 seed? Do you see them in the top 4 teams of the Western Conference? Based on our conversation about Memphis, you don't see Memphis overtaking them because we both see Memphis dropping.
Yeah. I would be more inclined to think Memphis drops. I think the Lakers figured it out for the last few games. I think I don't think they dropped to 5. I think I think they stay where they are at 4. I think we're gonna see Denver and LA go back and forth. Although, there's a game between them right now, I guess. But
so my thought is, if I was in the top tier, here's where I would want to be. I would want to be 2 or 3. I don't want to be matched up in the second round against OKC.
No.
I know a lot of people are talking like they're not scared of them. Sorry, OKC is a team.
No, they are.
They are solid. They've locked in number 1. They've won 6 in a row. They're one of the hottest teams in the NBA. To this day, they have every reason to not care.
Yep.
They're so far ahead. They are resting players, and they still are beating everyone.
We are as good as the West is. If OKC is not in the finals, it's a massive choke job. It just is.
So then if you're the Lakers, you need to bump yourself up. So then that puts you to the next tier, which is Houston, who has been, again, 9-1, one of the hottest teams in the NBA the last 10.
Yeah.
They're 46-26. Denver's 45-26. 45-28. Denver is. They are 1.5 games behind Houston. So Houston is kind of, with their hotness, have kind of made themselves the 2, which was shocked me 2 weeks ago. So Houston is the solid 2 seed, would end up with a 7. OKC is already locked in the 1 seed by a mile, which means Denver and Lakers would be fighting it out for 3 and 4. That's the way that it looks like today. But again, if Houston could hit a stumbling block here to end the season,
they could.
I don't think they're going to go 18-2 to close out the year. So they go 5-5. You give Denver a chance to hop over you, or the Lakers, because again, the Lakers and Denver the last 10. Denver's 4-6. The Lakers are 3-7. Joker's been rested for a bit with an injury, so has Murray. We'll see if they come back here to end the season to get them a nice hot streak to try to get the 2 seed from Houston.
I tell you what, Houston's got a tough schedule for the rest of the season. They, other than 2 games against Utah, tonight they're playing Atlanta, who is a wild card because they're terrible, but can also just Trae Young could go off and they could just embarrass you, like just getting surprised. But they got 2 games against Utah. Other than that, they got Phoenix, the Lakers, Oklahoma City, Golden State, the Clippers, the Lakers, and Denver to finish out the season.
Ooh.
So that we're gonna find out if Houston's for real.
I've bet against them just because I just figured they would just fade,
right? Because
they haven't been around. But they have the toughness, and they come and bring it every night, and they have a great coach.
Sure.
So I have to give hats off to the entire staff of Houston and also the players. They're no joke. They've been there all year long. They've been one of the top teams. They're hot right now. Give them a lot of credit. If they earned the 2 seed, they earned the 2 seed.
Absolutely.
To your point.
They're one of those teams that, like you say, middle of the year, oh, you know what? They showed up early, but, They arrived early. They're ahead of schedule as far as team progression, but they'll once they start playing the heavy hitters and it gets to the end of the year, they'll fall back down, and they haven't done that. They've done the opposite. So you gotta take them seriously.
So right now for the Western Conference, I think, again, you're in a treat. The play-in games are going to be great. You've got some great teams, great star power, great stories. And then also once you get to the playoffs, I think even the 1-8 matchup could be interesting. If it's OKC Dallas, OKC Suns, I'm interested.
Mm-hmm.
If it's OKC Clippers, I'm interested.
Sure.
Like, I think if Memphis makes it, I would probably be less interested because Memphis has struggled so much. But if they end up in the play-in games, I don't see them making it out.
No.
Because those other teams are on a ramp up and Memphis is on the ramp down.
I think Memphis would be a pretty quick series for OKC.
If the playoffs for the Western Conference are not watched a lot, that would be shocking to me because there's so many good matchups. So many potential good matchups, I should say.
Absolutely.
So let's go over to your conference, the Eastern Conference, where we always like to talk about the Knicks and how the Knicks are doing. But let's talk about the bottom tier. And what's interesting to me about the bottom tier right now and what struck my interest was watching the Bulls beat the Lakers. We already talked about the Bulls quite a bit, but the Bulls are the second hottest team in the Eastern Conference behind Boston, who just lost Tatum to an ankle injury, which I expect him to heal up before the playoffs. I don't expect to see him till the regular season ends because we all know what he can do. Mm-hmm. The Bulls are clearly going to be a play-in game because there's 4 teams that are clearly in the playoff. They're too far away, in my opinion, 4.5, 5 games from trying to get to the 6th seed with Detroit.
You want a hot off the presses theory?
What's your theory?
So here's my thinking. I think there was a point in this season where Chicago thought they were not even going to make the play-in. I think they thought that they had no chance, and even if they somehow got in, we're not going to be able to make any noise. And they're in a position now where there's a lot of separation between 10 and 11, between Toronto and Miami. Chicago's in the 9th spot. They're not far away from Orlando and Atlanta. They could make a push, and they're hot. They might be saying, hey, they might be really motivated right now to say, let's make some noise. We sold off some of our best players. We kind of got this ragtag roster of, guys that were just trade filler and, some good young talent. Let's see where we can go with this thing. I think, man, I'd be a little afraid of the Bulls at this point.
Did we literally a week ago were like, we're not interested in the bottom 4 teams.
I just made it interesting, didn't I?
Yeah, the Bulls, I think the Bulls last couple games and me watching them, again, I watched them because of the Lakers.
They beat the Lakers. They beat the Nuggets. They beat the Knicks. They beat so many good teams lately.
But to me, the shocking part about the Lakers is they just grabbed the heart out of them by hitting all the threes they did in a row.
Yeah. And
it wasn't one guy. It was like 3 guys just started hitting threes, and the Lakers were you could see their whole body language is like defeated this is the point about Boston that's very difficult.
Yeah.
You get hot from 3, it's so deteriorating.
It is. It sucks the life out of you.
You can lead tie game, and then suddenly you're down by 12, and it's like 4 guys hit threes, and you turn the ball over twice, and you're like, now we got to get back.
Yeah.
So it's like the Bulls are kind of like we'll play like Boston. We're just gonna rein it in, and they're doing really, really well. I could see them being the 7 if they're the 7 right now because I don't see Boston catching Cleveland. A Boston Bulls matchup in the first round is more interesting to me today than ever before.
Yeah,
because they both would it's a 3-point contest. Whoever's going to hit their threes.
Yeah, I think Boston defensively they'd probably embarrass them. But I at the same time, looking at the other options coming out of that play-in, I'd be more excited about the Bulls against Boston than Atlanta.
Oh, the Bulls, Atlanta, Boston is not even something to write about. It's over. Orlando
got players. They got a lot of injuries this year. They had a setback, but I see Orlando being a team that will be good in the coming years.
So you can see out of the 4 teams, Atlanta, Miami, Orlando, Bulls. You see Bulls and Orlando coming out of that.
Sure, why not?
Okay, we're 10 games away. So there's your playoff.
I'll say that.
So then you have basically 2 teams that are battling for 5 and 6. The Bucks and Detroit have similar records. I see that happening all the way to the end of the year. I don't see either of those teams like making a huge run anywhere.
Yeah.
I think both of them can be defeated by the teams that are 4 and 3. I think Indiana's showing a lot of life, and I still believe the Knicks are going to the second round. The question is, if you're the Knicks, are you the 4 or the 3? Because Indiana is coming up fast, and the Knicks are. I feel like they got a 4-cylinder. They need an 8-cylinder. But you're not playing the Pacers until you would not play the Pacers until the finals of the Eastern Conference.
If they got it that far, sure.
Correct. So the Pacers could be 3, you could be 4, which means your matchup would be Milwaukee or Detroit still, because 5 and 6 are going to be similar.
Right.
And then you would have to play Cleveland, which is currently the 1 seed, and I don't see them losing that.
Yeah. And I could eat a lot of crow for it, but I do, I want to say Detroit scares me more than Milwaukee. Because they're kind of young and hungry and unpredictable, and we've talked about them before.
I just think the Eastern Conference is an easier conversation because there's not as many great matchups with these great veteran players. It's hard for me to fathom a team getting out of the East that isn't Boston. I can cheer for it. I can hope for it. I can say, oh, these are all the reasons why, but it's not happening.
And to that point, Cleveland has lost some tough ones lately. They, I think before their last win, I think they actually had 4 losses in a row for the first time. I'm trying to pull it up quick, but Cleveland has really started to come back down to earth.
They have. They're 6 and 4.
I don't really come back down to earth, but they beat the Jazz. Before that, they lost to the Suns, they lost to the Kings, they lost to the Clippers, and they lost to the Magic.
I see them resting some players. They're figuring it out. And again, they're so far ahead of Boston. I shouldn't say that. They're 4.5 games. So they would have to go 5 and 5, and Boston's got to finish out, undefeated. And I just don't see that happening. Like, they're going to finish the season 7 and 3. Cleveland should be fine. They should end up with the 1 seed. In a week, we could be going, the 1 seed's up for grabs. They're 2.5 back now. I mean, a lot can happen in 3-4 games if Cleveland keeps losing to what it could have, should have been.
It's interesting that they've had this little mini losing streak right around the time that Tatum got injured, because that could affect Boston. They could lose a few games that they wouldn't likely they aren't likely to lose with him.
I think it will be interesting to see who the Bulls get as a 2 seed. And Orlando, I think that'll make it a little more interesting. I think those teams have something to say. They can ramp it up. Orlando's 5 and 5. Atlanta's 7 and 3. I know we're discrediting them, but they are one of the hotter teams. And Miami's 1 and 9. So Miami's like, hey, we're trying not to be 10, but I think we're pretty much 10.
Yeah.
Because even if they go 1 and 9 the rest of the way, Toronto's got to go like 5 and 5, which is difficult for them.
I don't think it's crazy to think Pat Riley would love for Miami to end up in the lottery.
Wouldn't surprise me one way or the other. So to me, the Eastern Conference has less like mystery, because we have bunches. We have these like Tour de France riders. You got 3 teams that are neck and neck. You got 2 teams that are neck and neck.
Yeah.
You got several different wings, because you got 11 teams to play with. So the Western Conference has 3, and then another 3, possibly 4 with Memphis. Then you got another 3 on the top. The only one that has already won the Tour de France is OKC.
Right.
Like they're already done.
They're well past the finish line.
So to your point, if they don't get to the Western Conference Finals, in your mind, I have to agree with you about OKC. If they don't get to the Western Conference Finals, it's shocking.
If they don't get to the Western Conference Finals, it's shocking. I think it could be considered an all-time choke job if they don't get to the finals.
They're 59-12.
I mean, how could you ask for?
They're 9-1. They're 9-1 in their last 10. They have a chance to be like to get high 60s. 68 wins, 67 wins is not unheard of. That's an unbelievable regular season.
Mm-hmm.
So to your point, if they're not in the finals, it's going to floor. It should floor everybody. They're that much better than everybody.
Yeah.
And
they are.
The fans are hungry. The fans are going to be blowing the roof off of that building.
You don't need to be like an X's and O's expert to just watch Oklahoma City and just know that they play on a different level. It's a simple eye test. They play a brand of basketball that is like surgical and methodical, and they've got an answer for everybody, and they recover in the middle of games. I go back to that, what I consider the turning point of the whole Knicks season, where where my whole world got deflated, and it was the first game against OKC. I think it was the first week in January. The Knicks out-hustled and matched them for an entire half, and they looked by far like the best team. And that second half, the OKC came out with a completely different game plan and just totally dismantled the Knicks. And the next time they played, it wasn't even close from the first jump. OKC if I was a fan of them, I could not be happier with the way that season has gone, and I would fully be expecting a championship, not a championship, but a championship finals appearance. You end up playing Boston in the finals, and you want to tell me Boston's gonna win? I could see that, but
I think what's interesting about the Western Conference is I believe OKC is fighting nostalgia. Because think about these older players that we really like to talk about. Kevin Durant, LeBron James,
Steph Curry,
James Harden, Steph Curry. These are all the players that are in their 30s that are, in our mind, are amazing. And OKC has none of those.
Right.
Like, they don't have a single one of those guys. So if OKC, let me just paint a picture for you. They beat the Suns. Suns are the 8th seed. They beat the Suns. They beat Kevin Durant, basically. Then they play LeBron James and the Lakers, and they beat them. And then they close it all out, beating, let's just say someone upsets everybody, and they beat Steph Curry.
Yeah.
They would just take all of those, like, people, and again, you're talking about young fans,
all the childhood heroes of those NBA fans who don't root for a team but just like the players.
Yep.
All those guys that have, like, the guy that's got like all those jerseys in his closet, the Durant jersey, the LeBron jersey, the Curry jersey, and he'll just pick one to ride the coattails of this year. He'll just put the OKC has a chance to put that guy, those Fairweather fans, out of their misery.
And it would. I could see all of those series being not close.
Yeah, sure.
Like I'd know the Lakers. They just, to your point, just if you haven't, just treat yourself. Just sit down and watch a full OKC game. Even when they bench players, just watch the team play. Just watch them play, and you'll be like, we talked earlier in an episode about easy and hard baskets. I'm a Suns fan. I feel like they're hard baskets. I've watched the Knicks. I feel like they're hard baskets. I watch OKC, and I see very few hard baskets.
No, they get easy buckets.
And again, that was the thing that shocked me with the Bulls versus the Lakers. The Bulls made it look so easy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, this is weird. Because when I see teams having an easy time of it, being a Suns fan, I don't see any easy times. Like Kevin Durant's got to hit a 3 in someone's face just for us to win a game.
Right.
OKC's not doing any of that.
No.
I mean, and
they're steamrolling teams.
So that's the other question. I mean, that's the thing that we get to talk about to the playoffs. Is a team going to really challenge them, and then they're really going to have to dig deep? But to your point about the coaching staffs, great coaching staff, great adjustments.
Yeah.
Again, a Boston OKC series is very interesting.
Yeah.
Because that one would probably go 6 or 7.
I think so.
And I know not everyone would want to watch that, but here on Hoop and Harm, like that would be That could be some incredible basketball.
Look, as a Knicks fan, I hate the Celtics. I would be rooting hard for any team to beat them. That said, objectively speaking, OKC versus Boston in the finals would be fascinating to me.
I don't. It's very hard looking at these records. It's very hard to sit there and say OKC doesn't make it.
More often than not, I mean,
they're just
the two best teams that you think are going to.
They're 13 and a half games above the second place team.
Mm-hmm.
And they're possibly going to have 68 wins, which is, if you look at the NBA total, the most wins total. What do you have? The Golden State team?
72, right?
And then you had the Bulls, who got 70.
Yeah.
And then
probably the Bulls again with like 68 or something.
So if this team gets 68, what does that put them in? The top 4 or 5 teams of all time?
Yeah, record-wise, for sure.
If you look at records, if you look that up real fast. Because, I mean, they're looking at 59-12. So we have 11 games to go. There's a chance they could go 11-0 and get 70, which is crazy because no one's talking about that.
Yeah, if they get 68, they'll be in the top 5.
And if they get 70, they would be one of 3 teams to ever hit 70.
Exactly.
And if they go 11-0, they get 70. And nobody's speaking about that.
And,
right?
Yeah, actually, they are currently, well, I guess because they're on pace. They're on pace for 6th. The way that this particular site has it set up, but
pace for how many wins?
Well, it doesn't say how many wins, but I guess they're on pace to be the 6th, to have the 6th best record of all time, or tied for the 5th best record of all time.
Okay, well, let's look at their schedule here, since we're talking about OKC and the possibility of undefeated. I'll read it off to you. They play Sacramento. They play Memphis. They play Indiana, Chicago. These are home games. Detroit is home. Then they are at Houston. They play the Lakers twice. The Suns, at the Suns, Utah, and New Orleans. So after the Suns, we will know if they have a shot.
Here's the thing, man. They're the best. They're one of the best teams in basketball. None of those teams scare me at all for them. Like, I'm not like.
None of them should if you're okay. I understand. No one's talking about this. They could go 11-0 and 70. Yeah. That's crazy. As I still remember when the Bulls did it, and I was like, that's a crazy goal. You're going to try to get 70 wins?
Yeah.
It's crazy. But it's doable.
And it's, you know why? It's because they play such good team basketball. I mean, obviously SGA is a superstar MVP candidate, and
he's winning the MVP. Joker's been westing. Okay, I mean, he's winning the MVP.
It's SGA, and well-deserved. But they have such a good team. Like, everyone in their rotation is a total rock star. You would love to have those guys on your team. They all play their role. They know their role. So it's hard to even see a team, just surprising them from time to time. And that's why their record is so good, because SGA could have an off game, and he doesn't have many, but he could have an off game. And there's so many good, solid players that play good team basketball that they're going to pick them up. It's the teams that are really reliant, like the Knicks, on like Jalen Brunson just playing otherworldly every game to win, or the Suns, relying on 2 guys to really carry everybody. Those are the teams that, like, if their superstars aren't going, then that's when the Bulls get hot from 3-point range and they beat you.
The hard part that I see with the playoffs for OKC is you got to beat them 4 times.
Same thing with the Celtics, right? I mean, sure.
I could see you beating the Celtics twice. I could see a couple things happening, but it's very, very wild.
You're not beating 4 times.
When I look at OKC, because to your point, pick your poison. Because even if you get a great defensive performance, they're just sending out their second whole team.
Mm-hmm.
If Brunson goes 5 for 20, you're losing.
Yeah.
You're losing. You're not winning that game.
Yeah.
OKC can manage that because they have so many good people and they play great defense. I just think we're not giving. I just think because of their location, they're just not getting the love, and everyone's so interested in the old school, the old timers. And it's like the OKC's the new timers, and like there's something to be said about these new guys wanting to put it to the old guys.
Yeah. And hey, there comes a time, right? Every generation, like, they can't do it forever. Like, Magic and Bird could not be the top of the world forever. Age caught up to them, and new players came in. A guy named Michael Jordan came in and stole the league. And, the NBA has been dominated by Curry and Durant and LeBron for the last 10 years.
They have a chance to beat all of them.
He has a chance to beat all of them. How cool would that be?
That's another story in the playoffs that we could probably write some good articles on. But so I'm intrigued. The Bulls made me intrigued with the East. I don't know what to tell you. And maybe I hate the Lakers, and I was really intrigued because they beat them. But then they went and beat it. I forgot who they beat right after that. They took it to another team. So they didn't just do it one and done. They just beat.
Oh, they beat the Nuggets.
Yeah, so they beat the Lakers, and they beat the Nuggets, and I was like, nah, something's happening here.
Yeah,
something's in the water. So points.
The Bulls, they do it in Chicago.
The Bulls are wanting to do something, and again, this would be outstanding to see OKC get 70. We'll see. We get to watch.
Bulls
we get to
have with house money right now. They're gonna be fun to watch.
And doesn't that feel good to have house money? I feel like KD is. I feel like the Suns feel that way, but I think they had to have Beal go take a break.
Yeah,
sadly,
maybe check out for the rest of the year.
Sometimes it just doesn't work, like you said. When it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit.
Yeah.
When you got the odd man out or the odd couple you invite on a date, go with.
You know what? Because you're just waiting for that day. You're just waiting for that game for him to like break out and be his old self. And maybe you get that every once in a while. But when you don't even have to think about it, it's like, no, we know the offense is running through Durant and Booker, and that's it. And they're going to do their thing. I'd rather go to war with that.
I think I can't emphasize this enough. I want to see the GM of OKC one day sit down and write a book about this.
Would love to see it.
Because that is, I mean, and that's the thing is, this isn't the year for OKC. This isn't like you have to win.
No.
Like they have picks on top of picks on top of picks. They got players on top of players.
Long-term,
going
sustainable
there
success.
This is not, they will be around. We will be talking about them 2030, 2032. I would be surprised if OKC is not a conversation piece.
Yeah. No.
For the next 10 years.
Yeah.
It would floor me. I just think that's what you have. And the West is going to be very shook up as these old guys say bye-bye.
Yeah.
And the new guys come up.
That's right.
So, any closing thoughts for the Knicks fans? You got any... Maybe you want to be the 4 now. Maybe you want to be the 3. Maybe you want to be. You're not going to be the 6. I don't see you being the 6 or the 5.
Nope. Just finish strong. Just get everyone healthy. Show that you care in these games. These last few weeks, and it's a new season in the playoffs. That's all.
I feel like you're like the Knicks need all those mom care packages that you used to get when you were in college.
Yeah.
open up a package like, oh my gosh.
Get them through finals week, right?
What you should do is just send a trainer. Send a trainer, someone with acupuncture, all that stuff. Go to the Rangers, go to the Islanders and say, can we get some NHL trainers in here? We got to get our guys ready for the playoffs.
Yeah, set them up with some massages or something. And
that's what we'd need.
Get them healed up.
Yes, you need that. I like what you said. We need to be healthy. You definitely need to be healthy.
They do. They need to be healthy, and they need that clean slate of the playoffs. So I just don't want to see the rails go completely off until then.
Again, very disappointed if they're out in the first series. By far
it
is. We get to watch it. We get another couple weeks of the regular season. We'll see how everything shapes out. Thank you very much for joining us on Hoop and the Harmon, our new show here at Brought On by Batter Sports. We really appreciate you subscribing. We really appreciate you liking and commenting on some of the basketball knowledge that we provide you, what we're seeing, obviously. And we can't thank Nolan enough for joining us and being a part of the show and kicking it off. So thanks everybody for just watching, and stay tuned. We got a fun next, I would say, 3 months? We got 3 months, 4 months almost. Is that how this thing goes? Until we get to the off season? July?
July. Yeah, at the 2 months, right? We're almost April.
We're almost April. April, May, June, July. Yeah,
April, May, 2.5 months.
Yeah, we got some time.
2.5, 3 months.
So get your summer clothing out. We're about ready to go into the playoffs, and it's going to be very interesting.
Very fun.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much.
Take care.
Thanks again, Nolan.
Bye-bye.